Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming today. We will be hearing a talk entitled Unraveling the Mystery of Elongated Skulls in the Philippines by Charles Augustus Markham III, a distinguished anthropologist specializing in the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. He has made significant contributions to the field through his research, presentations, and publications. He's fluent in English, Tagalog, and Spanish. His linguistic skills have been instrumental in his cross-cultural examinations. Markham holds a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology from Cal Poly Humboldt, where he graduated with presidential honors, and an Associate of Arts and Humanities from Santa Rosa Junior College, earning Dean's honors. His academic journey extended to Spain, where he achieved a sobresaliente outstanding designation for his certificate in Hispanic language and culture from Universidad de León. Recognized in his academic excellence, Markham has received numerous awards, including the Outstanding Student Award from the Anthropology Department at Cal Poly Humboldt, the Global Ambassadors Scholarship Award, and the Gilman International Scholarship Award. Wow. His research has been showcased at various conferences and symposiums, and he co-authored and translated the first English edition of Anitismoso. Oh, wow, I butchered that, I'm sorry. Anitismo, Ancient Religions of the Philippines. Beyond academia, Markham has held leadership roles such as vice president for the Associated Students of Cal Poly Humboldt and served as peer mentor and assistant instructor for the Anthropology Department. Recently, he participated as a cohort with the Asia Pacific Studies graduate program at the University of San Francisco, completed an advanced Spanish program at Universidad de León, and was awarded a FLAS fellowship at the University of Wisconsin-Madison for Filipino language study. His work, focusing on the intersection of culture, genetics, and ancient civilizations, reflects a deep commitment to understanding and preserving the rich cultural heritage of the Philippines and other Southeast Asian and Pacific regions. I will now give the floor to Mr. Markham. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I hope my presentation can halfway live up to that. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm Charles Augustus Markham III. I'm a Filipino American. I'm an anthropologist based and specialized in the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. And today, my presentation will be on unraveling the mysteries of elongated skulls in the Philippines. So the Philippines has many secrets locked away within its 7,000 plus island archipelago. And today we attempt to shed light on one of those mysteries. First and foremost, I'd like to give my gratitudes to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Southeast Asia cohort, SEASSI of 2023, all of my fellow peers and teachers. I'm a part of the Filipino program, and I want to thank you all for joining today and allowing me to share a piece of my culture's lost history. Let's begin. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to give credit to some of the trailblazers of archaeology and anthropology in the Philippines. And that would be pioneered by Dr. Rudolph Virchow, Dr. Ferdinand Blumentritt, in collaboration with the indigenous first Filipino anthropologists and archaeologists here in the Philippines, such as Dr. Jose Rizal, who's also the national hero, and folks such as Isabelo de los Reyes, who the Kylie mentioned previously. Now, elongated skulls are found in various parts of the world, but I believe due to the recent results in paleogenomic and genetic research here in the Philippines and cases of elongated skulls here within our region are of great importance to anthropological, scientific, and academic communities. And the origins of these elongated skulls the world over have been of great debate for a very long period of time. The mainstream hypothesis is the artificial cranial deformation. Some have postulated genetics, and even some far out folks have postulated aliens. But I believe the Philippines elongated skulls will shed a great light on the actuality of the origins of the elongated skulls and the connections they have to other regions of the world. So I'd like to also mention some of the other forefathers of anthropological and archaeological research here in the Philippines, besides Virchow. But there's also A.B Meyer, William Jost, Fedor Jagor, and Meyer, and also some other folks that I will mention in just a bit. But to put this into context, Dr. Jose Rizal was one of the students of Dr. Rudolph Virchow in his academic pursuits during his time in Germany. And this was in the 1800s, and many of the other pioneers going into the 1900s will also be talked about. So the study of the elongated skulls really started with this collaboration between Dr. Jose Rizal during his exile in Dapitan in Mindanao, and folks such as Dr. A.B Meyer and Rudolph Virchow back in Germany, as he was there in his exile in Talisay Dapitan, Mindanao. He performed many anthropological and archaeological projects and research programs there. And he actually wrote back to there's many documented letters and notations from Rizal and the anthropologists and archaeologists there in Germany regarding the sending of Dr. Jose Rizal many specimens of skulls, of cultural items, of ethnographic great importance regarding this collaboration. So as you can see here, some of these skulls that were found in Mindanao were from Sibugay Cave, Libertad Butuan City, and some other locations there we will mention as we move along. But the elongated skulls of the Philippines, the cultural placement of these in our ancient past held immense significance among ancient Filipinos. They were considered symbols of beauty, power, nobility, and divine connections. This also seems to be the case in many of the other regions and ancient civilizations found throughout the world that also exhibit elongated skulls. And as you can see here, the painting or the artist's rendition actually comes from the Boxer Codex, from some of the first Spanish, Italian, Portuguese folks that entered into the Filipino Islands, and it's from the Boxer Codex, which is very similar to some of the codexes found from the Americas, like the Dresden Codex and so on. But this depiction in particular depicts a Visayan royal couple, and as you can see, the female actually is one of the rare depictions of a live individual with an elongated skull from the Philippine Islands. So one of the interesting articles actually from early American history is, you can see here, early civilization traces are found, and bones in China dug up in the Philippines are held of great value. And as you can see, if you scroll down to the very bottom there, Michigan man in charge, and which that is from one of the pioneers of anthropology in the Philippines and the connection with the Philippine Islands, Carl Guth, which some of you may be familiar because he's just a hop, skip, and jump away from the University of Michigan, and he's a very famous anthropologist, archaeologist, and he was actually the founder of many of the archaeological societies in America during that time. So moving along, as you can see here, I've created a map using one of the recent Google Map Maker tools that was released, showing the placement and the finds of elongated skulls within the Philippine Islands. And as you can see, they go from the very northern Batanes Island region all the way to the very most southern points within Mindanao. So this was one of those universal cultural items or cultural evidences in the ancient pre-colonial Philippines. And I believe that I'm going to try to put the link in the description here or in the chat later as we end. So anybody can access this map. It's in no way a complete representation of all the elongated skull sites that have been uncovered here in the Philippines, but within my research, this is where I've been able to place many of the skulls. And as you can see, here's one from Mampong and Romblon, exampled here, as well as Boyangan, Bonton. Okay, so if you just search elongated skulls of the Philippines disbursement map, this map will come up and anybody can access it, and hopefully it'll help some research along the way. Let's see, go in here. Okay, so one of the interesting correlations with these elongated skulls is the sacred nature of the cave and the ship or boat burials. So one of the most prolific from the north to the south on almost 90 to 95% of the sites where elongated skulls are found are also boat or ship burials, as well as references of some sacred nature to the cave and seafaring or shipbuilding and the journey into the afterlife. As you can see here at the very bottom, you see the Manununggal jar, which was recovered from the Tabon cave, which was also the site where they recovered the 70,000-year-old remains of one of our ancestors here in the Philippine Islands. And this representation here is the Philippine psychopomp Maguayao and his serpent ferry boat, which carries the folks into the afterlife. So you see this prominently throughout burial jars and boat burials within the sites that also are exhibiting elongated skulls. Interestingly enough, when the Italian chronicler Antonio Pigafetta arrived in the Philippine Islands, he made notations about the great capabilities of the Philippine seafarers and ships, and he even stated that they were swifter and more agile than their own Spanish ships and galleons. So here is a representation of some of those ships that were found upon the arrival of the folks from Europe. Okay, so here we go on to the next slide. And one of the most interesting sites where elongated skulls were recovered is from Batanes. And folks that are not familiar with Batanes, it is the most northern island chain within the Philippine Islands. And here in Batanes is actually, until now, it's one of the only sites in which ancient stone structures were uncovered and are represented in the archaeological history, such as stone houses and even a very large stone castle dating back to pre-colonial ancient times. And as you see here, some of the ornamentation found within the graves that also has many connections to some of the ancient ancestors within the area. As you can see here in Batanes, one of the interesting things is they were not buried in cave sites, but they were buried in, they were interned underneath boat-shaped stone, burial sites, which is very interesting here. And let's go ahead and okay. So the most prominent theory and most evidenced reasoning for the majority of these elongated skulls is artificial cranial deformation. Okay, and this was done in numerous different ways and types, as you can see here. These are some of the types that were found within the Philippines, from using boards and different types of devices to also using different types of textile materials and wrappings. And Hisashi Suzuki was one of the most recent anthropologists. He was a professor at the University of Tokyo for a very long time that was able to access the skulls here in the Philippines. And as you can see on the far right, that's a Chinook, American Indian or indigenous person of the Americas with an elongated skull. The reason why I placed this here is because Suzuki compared and contrasted all of elongated skulls across the world, utilizing a rigorous scientific, numerous amounts of methodologies, and found that the most similar shapes of these elongated skulls were to the Chinook American Indians or indigenous peoples of the northwestern region, which I felt was actually quite interesting. So this leads me to the next slide, which is in my research, I found some very interesting correlations to many of these ancient civilizations. And some might be asking, what is the connection to the world or all of us? And there are some very interesting correlations to many of the sites and civilizations that exhibit a high ratio of elongated skulls. And as you can see here, many of them are from Egypt, the Americas, such as the Maya, from the indigenous peoples from Peru and Mexico, and all over the Americas, really. But also ancient Egypt, Southeast Asia. There really is a very global portion of this culture. So it's not just elongated skulls, but also in these same sites, in these same time frames, you find ancient dentistry. As you can see here, from Egypt, the Americas, the Visayas, which is central Philippines, and the northern Philippines from the Bolinao site, which shows a golden scaled ornamentation on one of the ancient ancestors. Another correlation is paper and books and writing, which you see here in the Americas with the Mayan Codex, in Egypt, and also the other reference here is from Southeast Asia. And these are ancient pre-colonial books, text, paper making industry capabilities. Okay, one of the other interesting correlations that you find with these elongated skull sites of civilizations, as you can see in the top left corner, is these sharpening of the teeth. Or it's a different form of dental ornamentation in which they file the teeth to a point. As you can see here from Southeast Asia, the Philippines, and also highly represented in the Americas. And these are just some of the similarities. As you also see ancient surgery, such as trepanation in many of these cultures. So there's some sort of, I think, powerful connection here to the entirety of the ancient world. And these elongated skull sites. And as we mentioned before about all the differing theories from aliens to artificial cranial deformation to genetics, it is my belief in researching not only the paleogenomics, but the archaeological evidence, one of the most prominent coming from one of the Uppsala University in Sweden. Last year in 2021 or 2022, they found that the indigenous peoples of the Philippines, excuse me, has the highest living ancestral DNA of Denisovans. And not only that, they have a very high ratio admixture of not just Denisovans, but other of our ancient ancestors, the progenitor hominid species, such as Neanderthal, Homo erectus, Homo luzonensis, which is evidence not only through skeletal remains, but also through carbon dating and the like. So it is my belief that in these regions, these ancient civilizations, we also find ancestor worship, or anatismo, as we called it in the Philippines, which is this great reverence for the ancestor. And it's kind of like a hybrid of animism and ancestor worship, anatism. But I believe, at least in the artificial cranial deformation cases, that they were trying to replicate the ancestor, our ancient ancestors, such as the Neanderthal, Homo erectus, the Denisovan, and some of the other folks that were here up into modern times. And I think that's evidence with study from Uppsala University in Sweden. And that is my theory, is that they were just trying to replicate the ancestors, which was a part of their belief, and then that was sacred to those folks, to give reference to those that came before him. That's my presentation. I know I probably went over time. Thank you, everyone, for having me, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of the semester.
Yay. I hope you can hear the hand clapping that was in the room. Thank you so much, Charles. We are a little bit over time, but we still have a little bit of time for Q&A if anybody has a question. And if you do, please, you have a little microphone near your mouth.
Hey, yeah, that's all very interesting stuff. I'm curious if across the sort of gradient of, or the kind of extent of different cultures in different continents performing, practicing skull elongation, if there's differences in the kind of relative abundance of it. So like in some cultures, is it everybody has differently shaped skulls, or is it associated with like a caste system or a particular ruling class or something like that?
Great. Thank you for the question. It's a great question, by the way. From what I've been able to gather, it is highly represented in the ancient pre-colonial population of the indigenous peoples within the Philippines, the Pacific island chains, Southeast Asia, and also highly represented in the Americas. And there are many other sites across the world, going through Europe, Africa, all the Middle East. There's many ancient sites, but from what I can gather from my research, the highest ratio, I believe, is found within the aforementioned regions. And I think also there's interesting genetic research that's already came out that shows these same population groups, such as those in Americas and the Pacific, here in Southeast Asia, also have these strange admixtures until this very day of these ancient hominid species. So, like I mentioned, I believe the previous was Papua New Guinea, and they had 3 to 4% of Denisovan DNA genetic material up until this very day. And the most recent study done here in the Philippines for all indigenous peoples found that the Aitamabukon have levels going into 10, 12, 13% of Denisovan genetic material up until present day. So I think there was some sort of global connection, if you will, but maybe they were more highly focused or populated in certain regions. But there definitely was, I feel like, not only a socio-cultural connection, but also a genetic connection.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I think we might have time for one more question, but if we can kind of make it quick so we can go on to our next person. Yes.
The audio's...
Sure. What was the oldest date of the, what is the oldest elongated skull? When was it found? Or when was it found and how old is it?
Okay, so if you're referring to the elongated skulls in the Philippines, this is actually a very wonderful question, because the reason why I mentioned some of the archaeologists and anthropologists from the 1800s and where this all started is because, and even the early 1900s and folks like they're from University of Michigan and other early 1900s to mid 1900s, there was some real movement in anthropology and archaeology here, and then all of a sudden it hit a brick wall. So you don't find a lot of academic or scientific or research papers regarding dating on a lot of these remains. It was very difficult for me to even obtain even just a small bit of data regarding the skulls here. But I believe that from the Tabone cave, there was some ancient remains found dating back 70,000 years old. I've been unable to analyze myself the entirety of the remains there, but they refer to the skull cap that was found there as a deep skull cap. And I believe from what I've been able to analyze just the skull cap, it looks as though it was also an elongated skull cap, and I believe that's why they're hinting at when they say deep skull cap. That was from the Tibon cave 70,000 years ago. But there are archaeological sites here in the Philippines with remains dating over 700,000 years old, showing, I think, clearly that there is some sort of ancient hominid connection here within the island archipelago. And that's done with radiocarbon dating and all of the highest scientific new age technology. So that's dating back over 700,000 years in the Philippine Islands. There was hominids here with tools and culture, and there was a thriving population.
Incredible. Thank you so much once again, Charles. Let's give a round of applause again. Really appreciate it.
Here it is, folks. It's here. Anatismo, Isabella de los Reyes, the ancient religion of the Philippines. Charles Augustus Markham III, that's me, the #1 anthropologist on the ground here in the Philippines. Check it out. Supportahan nyo sa akin. I appreciate the support from all over the world, from the US, from England, from Germany, from all the folks here in the Philippines that have bought the book and that have left great reviews, 5-star reviews, all across the board. Maraming salamat ako sa inyong lahat. I'm very thankful and eternal gratitude to all of you that have left those great reviews and that have purchased my book. It most definitely goes to supporting the great cause here in the Philippines in further anthropological projects, and we need all the support we can get. So here it is, Anatismo, Ancient Religion of the Philippines, first ever English edition by the original author, Isabella de los Reyes, who wrote it in Spanish, and the translator, myself, Charles Augustus Markham III. From the original Spanish to English. Now this wonderful and powerful book and literature is available in English for the world to read. And the Lost Civilization of the Philippines kicks it off with chapter 1. And I think y'all are gonna love it. So please go check it out, buy it on Amazon, purchase it, and maraming salamat. Thank you. Paalam.
Please welcome Chase Markham.
Subscribe kayo sa Mindanao!